Hey there everyone, Hitesh here, back again with another video, and in this video we're going to take an in-depth look about the Fast API, a modern way of how to design the API, and I'm pretty sure the Fast API is going to impress you a lot. First, we are going to move on to computer. We'll design a simple CRUD application for, let's just say, courses of the website, and I'll walk you through how to work with the Fast API so that at least our one application is up and running. And also, by the way, for all those my goldfish friends with a little bit shorter attention span, I have linked in the description section the blog where the entire code files and the pip file, everything is mentioned and is available, so you can check that out too. So once we are done with the Fast API basic code walkthrough, then I'm gonna come back here and I'll talk you and discuss about that what are the potential problems that Fast API is solving and why you should consider this as a great option for picking up for the next project so that you can design APIs faster and better. So without further ado, first let's get into the code walkthrough and I'll come back here after that and we'll discuss a little bit more. So welcome to the computer. In this, first we are going to take a brief look about the Fast API and we'll design a simple CRUD application so that you know how to work through it and how easy actually it is to work with the Fast API. So without further ado, let's get started up here. First, I would like to fire up my VS Code just like always. I've customized it a little bit more, so don't worry, I'll definitely release a video about this one by this week. I'll drag and drop a folder, Fast API, which is obviously an empty folder right now. Now let's go ahead and do our magic of installation of few things. The first thing, you can choose any of your favorite virtual environment. I prefer to use pip env, so in case it is not installed, just go ahead and say pip install pip env. Since I'm on a Mac, I have to run through every command with the pip3 install env. Mine is already installed. If yours is not, just go ahead and install that. Once that is installed, all you got to do is say pip env and simply grab a shell of that. This will not only activate your shell environment, a virtual environment, but also will create a file which is so much easier to give to all the audience who are watching this. So this is all what we got. So this is how it works. It gives you an environment, but also activates this one for you. And I can give you all the packages that I'm installing and working and everything like that. So the only thing that changes up is obviously pip env. This is how we install instead of pip. So we can go ahead and say pip install. And obviously I'm going to be working with Fast API. So I have to grab that. For the production, obviously I would mention a version number after that, but that's what we are having. Now, apart from this, we need a server which can make sure that our file is up and running, of course, for the web. And there are two options. There is a hypercorn and there is a UVcorn. So feel free to just choose any one of them. I'm going to be choosing up a UVcorn, but feel free to choose hypercorn. They are almost exactly the same. So it looks like it's going to take a couple of seconds. Come on, do this faster, or I have to speed forward this. Let me fast forward. OK, it is already up here. Now, the next one that we are going to have is going to be UVcorn. So let me just bring it up and UVcorn. Now, there is a hypercorn and there is a lot of debate which one you should get, which one you shouldn't get, but I'm not going to go in that debate. Let's go ahead and work on with that. So this one should be fairly fast. OK, there we go. We have got everything up and running and you can see everything is updated up here. So I'll give you these files as well. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new folder and I'm going to call this one as API because that's how usually the workflow is. All of the APIs reside inside the API folders, and then we are going to simply call main. Come on, not like that. We are going to create a new file inside this one and I'm going to call this one as main.py. OK, now first the syntax of the UVcorn. First we need to travel this into this API. So there we go. And please don't do this. OK. And we are now inside this. Now all we have to do is simply say UVcorn. Now UVcorn requires two flags or two parameters that we have to pass on. First is the file name. So my file name is main. And then what is the main app name? So I'll create this one in a second. I'm going to call this one as app. And then you can pass on a flag of reload so that automatically reloads and work on with that. But before we do any of that, we need to write something up here. So let's go ahead and see that how it actually looks like when we work in this file and the Fast API. And you'll be surprised to know that how easy it is. First and foremost, obviously we have installed this. So I'm going to simply say Fast API. Let's go ahead and say I need to if I can write that, import fast API. That's the first thing. Then obviously you will need some kind of models to work on with that. We are going to just push everything into an array, but probably you'll be working with the Postgres or anything like that. If you want me to make a video on that, please drop a comment section that we need more in-depth video guide on Postgres or authentication on that. I would love to make it, but in the comments first. Okay. So then we are going to have a pydentic. So there we go, pydentic. Let's go ahead and import base model. What this will do, this will allow us to craft a model in so much easier way that we can craft all this. So just like we create models in the Django, it's almost similar to that, but much more easier than that. In fact, that one is also easier, but this is much more. And then we are going to have from typing, let's go ahead and import optional. Now we won't be using it too much, but I wanted to just show you that you can have the optional fields in your base class, which is going to be basing all of your objects that you will be inserting in the array. But we won't be using it too much. And I'll show you that later on. You can remove it entirely if you're not too comfortable in that. Now this is how you create an app. So we're going to simply say that please fast API create an app for me. And whatever the name of the app you are giving up here, that's exactly what I was talking about, what you have to mention up here. So you got it now. Okay, so now that app is created, this obviously is not going to be doing anything. So we need to first define our route. And the way how we define route in the fast API, it's ridiculously simple. I don't think anything can be much more simpler than this. So we're going to simply mention app.get. So obviously, app is your main app that you have created, and then it comes with all the verbs that you can use or you probably use in the API, get, put, post, patch, everything is up here. Let's go ahead and run it on the home route. So let's go ahead and define. This is read route. Now again, I'm using read route. So I'm using the same method name which is mentioned in the docs, but feel free to call this one anything, and I'll talk about that more in a second, but this is how we're going to get. This is not going to take any parameter or anything, and we are going to just go ahead and simply return an object, which is going to be greetings, and we are going to be simply saying, welcome to learn code online.in. Okay, so this is it. That's all what we have written. Nothing too fancy, nothing. We are not even using pydentic anything, but this is it. This is all you need to make sure your APIs is up and running along with the documentation. Yes, it surprised me hell a lot. So I'm going to just run this one, and hopefully this is not going to do any problem. And I can just go ahead and launch this one. So let me bring up my browser first. There we go. And we can just copy this one. Copy that. My browser is up here, and we can go ahead and paste this one, and we are being thrown. And this is JSON, by the way. And notice I didn't mention anything. I'm definitely throwing an object, but I didn't convert it explicitly anything into the JSON. And that's one of the advantage of the fast API, that whatever it throws up, list, strings, Boolean, it automatically converts them into JSON, and that is amazing. Now, one more thing, that it also gives you the access of two types of docs. So you can go ahead and simply say docs, and voila, your docs are ready. And you can just use get, and you can try them out. If you have some parameters, it will show you the equivalent parameter fields with validation that it is integer, list, or whatever, and you can execute that. It will show you that this is my request URL. This is my response along with the response code. And if there is any failure or something, it works on that as well. And there's another kind of docs as well, which are pretty interesting. Redocs. This is the URL where you get it. It's not actually redocs. I need to check in the docs actually. Let me quickly check that, and let me show you that. It's not redocs, it's actually redoc. Just check in the docs actually. So there we go. It is just redoc. And this is also same thing. We can have a get response. We can fire up the response and get the response code and everything. I'm going to go for the Swagger version, which is this one. So I'm going to be going for this one. So coming back onto the part where we are writing the code, we'll keep it all running so that we don't have any issue. Now let me walk you through a couple of more things that will get you more idea about this one. Okay, so first we need a database. We are going to use a fake DB and we are going to be calling that as an empty array. Now at this point, if you want me to have a more in-depth guide about Postgres or using authentication or something, leave a comment in the description section. I'll replace this fake DB to Postgres and show you how to process that. That's not a big deal. But right now we're going to use this fake DB. Now we need a class to be designed. So let's say you are creating a Learn Code Online, which is a course-based website, and you want to push up lots of courses in that website. So we're going to simply say I'm creating a class of course, and which is going to be run by this base model, which again we are importing from Pydantic. And then you have to mention that what are going to be the fields in that. So obviously every course is going to have a unique ID, and I just have to mention that it's going to be integer, and it's going to take care of all the validations for me, that make sure it is 100% integer. I don't have to write even a single line of code. And then every course is going to have a name. The name is going to be just a string format. Then we are going to include the pricing of the course, obviously, which is going to be float, integers, float, string, and you can have a Boolean fields as well. So we're going to say is early bird, if I can write that. Okay, so is early bird. And this is the point where we can use our optionals as well to give more typing response and everything. I'll probably talk about that in later on videos. Right now, otherwise it will be too much deviation here. And I'm going to just say none. By the way, you can just mention the bool. I will probably get a separate video of explaining this optional because I have never made a video on typing an optional. So I'm not covering them up here, probably a separate video. Okay, coming back onto the story. We have now our app, we have a fake database, and we have a class which is modeling my entire data, that how it is going to be there. So the next thing is obviously to put up all the operations that in theory you will be putting up in any application. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, decorate it. Everything needs to be decorated before adding the verb. So let's just say I am again putting up a URL, which is going to be /courses. Again, this is a GET request. So how this is going to work? We are going to just throw up all the courses. So we're going to simply say get courses. And once that method is being called, we are going to go ahead and simply say, I am returning you the entire fake DB. Notice here, I'm not rewriting this or converting it into any JSON or anything. I'm just throwing up the entire array. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and grab a couple of more routes here. So app, the next one is going to be, let's just say we are going to get again. Get, but this time I need to show you that how we can take the query parameters. So we're going to simply say courses. And then if you want to take any parameter from the URL, all you got to do is simply use the curly braces. And let's just say we're going to take a course ID here. Okay. So if somebody passes me a course ID, then obviously I'll give him a course. So I'm going to simply say, let's just say a get course or get a course. Probably a better naming can be used, but I'm going to simply say get a course. There we go. Okay, couple of things before we get a course. Obviously, the first thing that we need is going to be a course ID, which is being passed on to me here. So I can take access of this directly. But I have to cast this one because there are chances that it might be treated as a string. By default, they are actually treated as a string. So I need to cast them as a string. Rest all validation will be handled up by them, by the fast API. Now, once this is done, all you have to do is make sure that in the course, so the structure that we are following is that integers are going to be starting from 1, 2, 3, but the arrays actually start from 0. So let's just reduce that. Now, again, if you are using for an ID a randomly generated number, then in the array, we have to find out, and you can use a variety of algorithms to find an ID which is matching to your course ID. But I'm not going to make that complex. I'm going to just keep that as an integer 1, 2, 3, 4, but feel free to add a little bit more logic here to find the ID which is matching the past ID. Again, we are going to do that in probably some course. So I'm going to call this one as a simply course, and then we are going to take this course ID and we are going to subtract just 1 from it because array starts from that, and we're going to simply go ahead and return from the fake DB the value which is calculated by the course. Again, trying to keep that as simple as possible. Okay. So this is the home route, simple basic route. This is getting all the courses. This is getting individual course. And now it's time to add a course as well as delete a course. So that is also really simple. We are going to go ahead and simply say app.get, not get, actually post. So we're going to use the verb post now. And again, we're going to follow the standard practices. I'll throw up another video this week on the API best practices, but we're going to simply say if somebody hits a route with the post method here, then we are going to go ahead and define another method. So we're going to call this one as add course. And when you're adding the course, so obviously you're going to send me a course, which should be of the type of base model class, the course that we have defined up here. Okay. Now, how we're going to add this one? It's going to be like really simple. We're going to go ahead and say fake db dot append. And again, we are not re-evaluating it because a lot of work is being done by the fast API, but it is always recommended to do a one more thorough check from the backend. And we're going to just convert that into a simple dictionary, and that's it. We are taking the course literally, converting them into dictionary and appending that into the fake DB. And that's pretty much it. Now, in theory, you don't return entire object as a response usually, but let's just say in this case, we are deviating a little bit, and we are going to be simply saying that in the fake DB, just get me this course which you are sending. So fake DB -1. So whatever is the last object, remember we are appending it. So whatever the last object is there, we are appending it. So that's pretty much it. Okay, not bad. Now, one more thing before we go ahead and call this tutorial an off. So app.delete, and then we're going to do a little bit of testing as well. So if somebody hits a route of /courses and /, obviously we cannot delete everything without an ID. So now we have grabbed the ID. So how we're going to delete that? My bad. There we go. Let's go ahead and define a method which is going to be delete course, and it is going to be processed with the course ID, which is going to be a type of integer. So safety check a little bit there. There we go. Now how we're going to delete that? We're going to simply take the fake DB and we will pop the course ID, but we are going to be assigning the IDs starting from 1, 2, 3, but our array is going to be taking them from 0. But if you're marking a course as with the ID 0, then you can just keep it as it is. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start from 1. So I'm going to just subtract 1. Again, how you're crafting. And then here's the interesting part. This time I'm not going to return anything, but rather I would like to return a JSON object with a key value. So task, which is going to say deletion successful, and that's all. Now see this example here. We were able to do almost all of the CRUD operations, and see the number of lines of code that we have written here. There might be some issues here. There might be some typos which we are going to fix right now, but this looks okay. So let's just see first that how much we are. It looks okay here. Let's see that how this is going. So we need to just hit a reload, and now notice here that how well the documentation is. First, it gives me a documentation about schema. So I can click on course and it says that, hey, this is ID. Asterisk means you need to pass on. You cannot avoid it. And then we have, this is a title, which is ID and all of that. So name is going to be a string. Then we have a price, which is going to be a number. And then this is an early bird, which is a Boolean. But this is not compulsory. This is an optional field. I'm pretty sure you have guessed it by now. And then once you're done with reading the schema, you can go ahead and simply move on to the first get, can try it out, and you can execute that request, and it's going to give you the response body, which is greetings. It also gives you the response header in case you are looking for that. And that is a fantastic thing to be able to work on. I surely can do that using the Postman, but if it is just right here, why wouldn't I use that? Now, getting a course list. So let's try and execute that. Obviously, this is going to return me an empty array because nothing is there. We will come back onto this. First, let's add some data to our fictitious database. So I'm going to go ahead and click on try out, and I'm going to start with the 1, and it's picking up all the default values. So let's just say I'm going to go ahead and push up a course on Django freelance ready. And I'm going to keep a pricing of 199 rupees. And I'm going to leave the default. Yeah, true. That's fine. Execute that. It gave me that this is the response body. And remember, whenever we are doing this add a course, we are returning the last object from the fake DB. So this is actually following up pretty nicely here. We are having all the validations and everything nicely. Let's go ahead and add one more up here. So I'm going to say ID with 2. And this one is going to be, let's just say, the new React JS course. This is, I guess, 299. Not pretty sure. Okay, so execute that. And this time it is giving me exactly that back. So pretty much nicely. It is working nicely. And now we can close this one. Let's just say if we are able to grab the individual courses. I'm going to go ahead and say try this out. And I'm going to say give me the course with the ID 2. Execute that. And it gives me the response. But the beautiful part is, what if I ask for a course whose ID is not there? I haven't handled that response. So execute that and notice it handles internal server errors and everything pretty nicely. Surely this could be handled nicely a little bit more. If I throw up my errors which are not present nicely, that would be better response. But at least it is handling. My application is not getting crashed. That is a nice one. And let's go ahead and see if we are able to grab all the courses now. Let's go ahead and execute that. And yep, list is coming up. And finally, let's go ahead and delete a course. So again, I have to mention that I'm going to go ahead and delete a course ID with probably 1. So the first course is going to be deleted. And notice here, task deletion successful. So I'm getting the response back. And for all those folks who are still not able to appreciate that how this is all working on, let me show you something really interesting here. Copy this entire URL and throw it up in your browser directly. And this is a JSON response. I have never written a single line in this entire code that this is a JSON response. It is by default converting that into JSON, which is one of the best things that is happening in the API, and how simplistic the code actually has become. So I am impressed. I am impressed. Okay, so this is all for it. Now let's move back onto the camera. So first, meet Sebastian, the founder of the Fast API, and we really thank him a lot for creating this amazing product, and I'm pretty sure this product is going to pick up quite a lot in the community. It is well designed, well optimized, and the performance is really amazing. Now coming back, that there are plethora of options of choosing how to design the API and why this can be in the same competition race, and what are the features that are additional and impressive of that. Now surely it is mentioned on their blog and the homepage of the Fast API that it is ridiculously fast and very performance. Obviously I have noticed that as well. But now coming up, that why I would consider this in the next project or the big scale project for shipping the application. Communication. Now, one of the biggest things that you are going to notice when you work in a big scale project or a big company is, let's just say there is a team of backend developers who are designing the APIs, and there are front-end developers who are handling these APIs in Vue, React, or anything else. At that exact moment, there are so many tools for communicating. Tools like Jira, Trello, and I have used a ton of them, Slacks, and everything that is there. But still, there is a lot of communication gap between the API designers and the front-end team who is handling it. And I have seen even people shouting from this room to that room and Slack channels and everything. And this is really painful. And additional work comes into the picture when these backend API designers have to write the entire documentation and then pass on and update that documentation to the front-end team. They fire up their Postman and do all of the testing first and then write the code. It is a process that we have been working on so far. But what extra addition benefit that right out of the box I can see with the Fast API is its cooked up built-in documentation. This solves a big problem for us, that it is all cooked up. As soon as I update my code, the documentation gets updated quickly and my front-end team can see that right in the browser, and I have to give basically no instruction to them. So that is the one thing which out of the box I can see is really impressive. And the selection of all the behind the scene frameworks and everything is obviously very optimistic here. Now surely there is a lot more to explore, and probably once we create more complex application, we can see more in depth of the Fast API. I haven't as of now worked too much in depth of it in a big scale project, but I think this is a great candidate and I'll surely consider that in shipping up some of the products in the company in the future and recommending it as well. Let me know what are your thoughts about the Fast API. For my personal thought, I'm thinking that this is going to be a great framework to contribute as well. And by the way, for all those people who have been asking me, hey, we want to contribute in open source, suggest us something or how to contribute, here we go. Fast API is freshly new up here. You want to contribute something, go ahead, take a pull request, design a new feature and submit that for the review. Just make sure you don't act like a moron and just update the README file or just the documentation. If there is a full walkthrough and you are updating a lot, that's okay. But make sure you are contributing something valuable and something addition in this API. This is your time. This is your chance that you can contribute in something really great. So again, with a final note, a big thanks to Sebastian from the Fast API for bringing this into the community. I am thoroughly impressed and I'm surely going to be making up more tutorial on this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section as well. And I'm going to catch up in another such crash course. See you soon. No.